I'm Joanne Michael. I'm the Director of Programs and Services with the Alzheimer Society of Saskatchewan. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce and to welcome Dianne McLeod, who is a family caregiver and an Alzheimer Society volunteer. Welcome, Dianne.
Hello, Joanne.
Dianne, would you like to start off by just introducing yourselves to everybody, setting the scene a little bit about who you are, where you live, and a little bit about you and Doug and your dementia journey?
Sure. So my name is Dianne McLeod, and in 2014, my husband was diagnosed with dementia. Until that time, we had been a fairly ordinary family. Doug was a farmer, and I was a retired teacher, and we have two daughters, and he loved to farm. And a couple of years before he was diagnosed, he said he was having trouble kind of remembering things and finishing up things. And I said, oh, well, you probably got too much on your mind, and he went to the doctor, and the doctor gave him a quick mini mental test. And they said, oh, no, you're fine, Doug. And then in 2014, he had a gallbladder attack, and he was very sick and in the hospital for about, I think 21 days in total. And during that time, he had a few issues with his heart as he was, they knocked him out. I'm trying to think, because they were doing surgery on this gallbladder and that type of thing. And when he came out, he said he was confused, and they said, oh, Dianne, he's been taking lots of drugs and give it time. And so we did give it some time, and Doug was always very aware that he wasn't as mentally acute as he had been before. And so it was in 2014 that he had the brain scan and things. And they did say then that he was probably dealing with mental decline. And I chose to call it dementia instead of Alzheimer's. And his mother had Alzheimer's, and there was some history of it in the family. So it wasn't like we weren't new to it. And it wasn't like he didn't know some of the things about it. And so for the next, I guess, 8.5 years, we lived together as people that had a very different, I get weepy just.
That's okay. That's all part of your story.
But anyway, we went through the different stages of mental decline. We read lots. He was quite verbal at the beginning about what he was thinking and what he was feeling. And it was hard because he was a very independent person. And okay, my big thing is that it really doesn't matter what life throws at you. You're still human, and you're still here. And our job is to live as well as we can. And I think with the support that we received, and with the knowledge that we had, and with his willingness to kind of work with everybody who was trying to help him, we had some pretty good years. How about that?
Well, certainly, as you can see behind me, one of the things that we want to help people do when they're being connected with the Alzheimer Society is to learn more and to live well with dementia. And you sort of talked a little bit about Doug always being aware that there was changes. What were some of the things that he might have shared, or some of the coping strategies that you used to help him live well?
Well, like when we think back, because they said, before he had this episode in the hospital, like he did write things down, and he did say, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to work at this, or that type of thing. The first real change that he and I both noticed was that he was a voracious reader, and he was having trouble reading some print. So, we typed, like, I thought, oh, maybe it's his eyes, because he had pressure in his eyes and that type of thing. So, we made it bigger, but he wanted it very straight and very plain. And so, like, we almost went back to printing, though he wrote everything that he wrote all his life. Anytime he used a pen, he wrote, he didn't print. But we moved to print so that he could continue to read things. And it was the same with the clock and telling time. You know how we've gone to digital clocks? He liked to go back. We went back to those old clocks that had the numbers on them. And for a while, for a while that helped him too. And we slowed down. He slept more, or sometimes he would just sit and He kind of liked quiet. He definitely didn't like two things going on at the same time. And I'm not sure that's because his vision was affected, or like if there was music, he really didn't care if there was a sound behind him or that type of thing. But and he got more and more selective in what was being sent to him. Just one, if you were touching him, you didn't need to talk. If you were singing, you didn't need to have the TV on and that type of thing. And I think his senses were sometimes he was very sensitive to that type of thing. And we learned to slow down and to not have a lot of noise. And as much as he liked visiting, one or two people, even when we went out to a restaurant to eat, one or two people was enough for him, like that type of thing. So those were some of the changes that we made along the way. And I'm quite a chatty person, and I learned to shorten my sentences and that type of thing too. Doug also wore hearing aids, and he looked after them probably 3/4 of the way through his journey, but he needed those hearing aids in order to function as well as he could. So those are some of the things that we did.
So I'm not sure if we've shared with everybody that you actually live in rural Saskatchewan. Can you tell us what living with dementia in rural Saskatchewan was like for you and Doug, from whether it be early on in the disease until the, more recently and before Doug passed away?
Okay, so I'm not sure if living in rural Saskatchewan is too much different than living anywhere with dementia, but I do think that people are maybe afraid of, or they don't know how to act around someone that has dementia. And early on, well, as I said, because of our family history, we did know about dementia and about some of the effects of it. I mentioned his mother had dementia, but his sisters passed away with dementia in their early 70s, and Doug was well into his 80s. So we had some experience with it. I had gone to several sessions that the Alzheimer's put on. A long time ago, I went to the sensory, when they had that room with the sensory deprivation thing. And then I happened to see David Suzuki. He had gone, his mother suffered from dementia too. And he showed that on TV one night, and Doug and I watched that. And he said, "Is that what it was like for you?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Is that what it's like for you?" And he said, "No, I don't think so." But I think it was like, in a way, like maybe because it was too overt or something, but he was very interested in that. And I think maybe something like that for all of us would be good. Then later on, we went to Regina and went to the First Steps program. And he wasn't too keen about going to that either. But after the first one, he said, "Oh, that wasn't bad." And he said, "When's the next one?" And there was no discussion at all about going to the next one. He was quite, I think he looked forward to it. And it was nice for him to meet with other people who were sort of walking the same road as he was. And maybe, I guess I really do believe that in rural Saskatchewan, we don't have anyone or very little support, like very little. I'm a big believer in getting together with other people, and we don't have that. Like if we had lived in Regina, we could have probably got here or, gone to a support meeting or that type of thing. And that wasn't available here. But they did have the ABCs of dementia here. I'm not sure what year, in Mooseman. There was a huge crowd at it. And from that, when I circled the room, I sort of looked at who was at the meeting, and I thought, well, they might be good people to contact. And some of them have been, but there's still a big fear of dementia, probably the same as with any disease, but kind of I think people don't know how to act or how to be around somebody that has dementia. So is that a good enough take on rural?
Well, it's certainly your take on rural and your life experience, and that's certainly what we want to have you share today. Now, you talked about that ABC of dementia and people being there, and you also talked about the ability to for people to get together, and certainly because there wasn't the opportunities other than coming to Regina for Doug at the time to be connected with other people, that we didn't have the same kind of virtual group components that we do now, thanks to COVID, I guess we're going to say. But you're a support group facilitator. You co-facilitate a support group for caregivers in your home community. Can you tell me why you choose to do that, and why you choose the importance of that, and why you choose to volunteer for the Alzheimer Society?
I choose to volunteer because I think I do it as much for myself as for anyone, but I think that it's good that we see that we're not alone in this walk, and that we share, every time we have a meeting, we share our experiences, and we also work at maybe, I call it educating ourselves, but learning a little bit more. And to me, for someone who's walking the walk, like really when you've met one person, the line about when you've met one person with dementia, you've met one person. Because we're individuals, reading about something in a book isn't the same as talking to somebody. And I guess that's what I think even about all this online stuff. I think that person-to-person contact is really important. And that's kind of why we worked at forming this group. I also have a co-facilitator that's very good, and as is her husband, and they shared their experiences with Doug and I too, and that was a real help, so there's where I am with that.
So our time's we need to wrap up our time here quite soon, but today we have, whether it be researchers or healthcare professionals, other family members, people with dementia, or general public who's watching. What is the one thing that you would like those people who are watching to take away with them today?
Well, the last 2 years of Doug's life, he did live in the integrated healthcare system, and it was a tough move for both of us, and COVID made it even worse. But what I would like people to take away is the idea that we still are here. We're still alive. And let's do what we can to, this idea, oh, does he know me? Or that doesn't matter. We are human beings, all of us, and we all need each other to make us better, to make us feel good, and to make us realize that we are here and life is good. Life is okay. This is what life is.
You've certainly, through your time with us today and sharing your journey and your and Doug's journey, have shared the importance of, and I think you said it so well, that when you've seen one person with dementia, you've seen one person with dementia. And I think that's the same. My perspective is that that's the same for the caregivers as well. That while it's a similar path that people may be walking along, everybody's journey is slightly different. And so, I certainly want to thank you for sharing today a bit about Doug, a bit about your journey, your experience, as I know that everybody that's watching will take away some meaningful thoughts.
Well, I hope so. Life is good, and we all just have to do the best that we can. And any help that we can get is good, is wonderful.
So thanks so much, Dianne, for sharing your story with us.
Thank you, Joanne, for allowing me to.